For years, millions watched Kody Brown's journey unfold, his laughter, his anger, his so-called faith. But what if the story you've been watching was never real? Tech, a former TLC producer, has broken his silence, revealing the network might have had its strings all along. Kicks. From selective editing to emotional reshoots, the claims they have put forth indicate a truth that could shatter the very base of Sister Wives. Cake. What if everything you thought you knew about Kody Brown was a lie crafted for television? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will change how you see this family forever. Okay. For more than a decade, Sister Wives painted a picture of faith, family, and freedom, an unorthodox household fighting prejudice and misunderstanding. But behind the scenes, a very different story was unfolding. In early, Artsenling Arshawar, a former TLC producer, whose name we're withholding for safety reasons, finally decided to break their silence. Inked. They had worked on several seasons of Sister Wives, from the family's relocation to Las Vegas to the early years in Flagstaff. Hinka. They had remained silent for years, bound by non-disclosure clauses and a sense of professional loyalty. But as the Brown family publicly imploded and the fans clamored for answers, this producer says they could no longer live with what they called a decade of selective truth. We didn't film reality, they say. We filmed marketable emotions. That single sentence has sent shockwaves through the fan community. But according to the whistleblower, executives from TLC and Figure, Bat Films, had weekly conference calls wherein they reviewed raw footage and decided which version of each family member would make it onto the air. And Kody was the centerpiece. He couldn't be the villain entirely, because villains don't sell products. He also couldn't be a saint, because perfection bores audiences. And so, editors created what they referred to as the lovable chaos archetype, a man whose mistakes were loud but forgivable, whose temper was fiery but framed as passion. Scenes that painted him too harshly? Gone. Scenes of wives confronting him directly? Reshot, softened, or delayed well into the future. Kept this cantas. Conning King. The whistleblower describes one night in Artsenling Arshawar, when Christine confronted Kody over unpaid Coyote Pass costs, her voice cracked. The tension was palpable. Producers allegedly stepped in mid-argument and whispered instructions to ease tone, promising her they'd find a better take later. When the episode actually aired, audiences only saw a quick, teary clip of Christine saying she felt unseen. The fury was gone. The business dispute erased. The real story never aired, the whistleblower insists. We turned conflict into confession. They also say that emotional scenes with Robyn Brown have been treated as narrative anchors. If Kody came off as unsympathetic one week, editors would balance the next episode with Robyn crying in close-up, reaffirming his stress as family pressure. Even music cues were carefully selected to influence perception. Minor chords for Christine's doubts, gentle strings for Robyn's devotion. Every sigh, every silence, every tear is pre-approved by a control room hundreds of miles away. Why speak out now? The producer says two things push them over the edge. If at first, the season, Ursa's trailer, using the tagline, "The truth behind the cameras." That's ironic, they said. They're still selling the same illusion. Second, the public breakdown of trust between TLC and its audience. And after fans began comparing early seasons to the tone of recent seasons, which is very dark and fractured, questions erupted online. When did the Browns change? Or did the editing simply stop protecting them? The whistleblower asserts that the answer lies in the network's fear of collapse. Ratings surged when Christine left. When Janelle separated, advertisers returned, drama paid, and so the moral compass shifted. We stopped documenting faith and started feeding outrage, they said. They also show that raw footage sometimes contradicted what viewers were told. For instance, Artsenling Arshaw's birthday scene, in which Janelle appeared distant, was shot hours after the serious argument that was later removed. What instead came across was emotional coldness on her part. Actually, this was exhaustion from being ignored. Fans berated her for years over a moment that never really occurred. Editing became destiny. The whistleblower size. Once it's broadcast, that version becomes their reality. The producer says some of the team members raised ethical concerns. A junior editor reportedly questioned whether tampering with religious debates was ethically right. Which response? Yeah, don't overthink it. It's TV. In reality TV, the truth is just raw material. What matters is what sells. According to the source, several crew members left quietly between seasons, Shashti and Sherbad, unwilling to keep shaping what they called emotional propaganda. Okay, but their contracts prohibited them from speaking publicly. Zalian, it wasn't until after the expirations and wave of online scrutiny that one has stepped forward, determined to tell viewers that Sister Wives wasn't organic, but carefully engineered for empathy, anger, and renewal. They conclude their testimony with words which continue to reverberate across fan forums. We didn't just edit footage, we edited faith, we edited love, we edited people's lives into television gold, and somewhere in that process, we lost our humanity. The camera never lies, but the edit does. When Sister Wives premiered in Arsene Ling E. Sure, Kody Brown was charismatic. He was the whirlwind in the middle of an enormous family, golden curls and leather jacket, boundless confidence. To early viewers, he represented optimism, a man ready to sacrifice everything for faith and freedom. With the energy of a motivational speaker, he danced through living rooms. Every camera angle, every confessional sold one idea: Kody Brown, the brave husband trying to make plural love work in modern America. But if you rewatch those first seasons today, the contrast with his later appearances is startling. The spark is now dimmed, the laughter replaced with a short fuse, and what was once lovable chaos has turned into simmering resentment. How did that happen? And why did it take so long for audiences to see the cracks? The answer brought by the whistleblower in session era shapes everything. Because, according to them, Kody was never organic on screen, he was engineered. The producers wanted a protagonist, somebody disheveled enough to create drama, yet relatable enough to root for. During the Utah to Las Vegas years, Kody's excitement was branded as bravery. Instances of control or vanity were cut. Big-hearted family speeches by him were highlighted. He was taught in confessionals to frame failures as learning moments. Goal: preserve the every dad just trying his best illusion. We gave him a halo of imperfection, a former producer explained. Flawed but forgivable. That's the formula that sells. Behind the scenes, however, tensions brewed. Christine's exhaustion, Janelle's independence, Meri's loneliness. These threads were here early, but muted in the edit. Viewers didn't get to witness the times wives contested Kody's authority, or how bitter arguments over money really were. Instead, we saw a man overcome with love, never by ego. What you called growth might have been just clever editing. As the family moved to Flagstaff, the illusion began to fray. Kody's frustrations grow louder, the wives less willing to smile through them. Yet even then, the show protected his frame. Whenever he ranted on about loyalty or respect, the ominous music painted him as a stern but wounded patriarch. When the wives voiced dissent, brighter lighting and jump cuts diluted the weight of their words. Each edit whispered the same message: Kody means well. Whistleblower here claims this deliberate shaping continued until the story itself rebelled. Christine's departure in Arsene Ling Arser left producers in a corner. For the first time, reality overpowered narrative control. TLC couldn't mask the unraveling. Christine was publicly thriving, and viewers loved her for it. Ratings didn't fall, found Ulthe skyrocketed. That's when, allegedly, the tone of Sister Wives pivoted from family journey to slow-motion implosion. Suddenly, Kody's temper wasn't softened. His emotional outbursts filled episodes uncut. Fans called a moral collapse. Sources close to the show characterized as a deliberate pivot in narrative, from a story of redemption to one of a downfall. Kody, once the hero, became the anti-hero overnight. The same network that protected him now showcased his downfall, since heartbreak had become the new commodity. They built him up to tear him down, the whistleblower says. When a hero breaks, viewers stay to watch the pieces. In television, every fall from grace starts with a carefully placed pedestal. According to crew chatter, the psychological toll on Kody was evident. During filming breaks, he'd question how the show portrayed him, saying, "They're making me look crazy," and can't. But production notes reportedly labeled these moments as gold, gras emotion. Yeah, Leon. By season Sir Jolt, insiders say he no longer trusted the crew. He watched scenes back and realized how confessionals were rearranged to heighten his contradiction. The man who once believed in the camera felt haunted by it. What began as image construction ended as character demolition. You fans who once cheered his unconventional faith now dissect his ego, his control, his loneliness. It was the same editing choices that shielded him that now magnified his flaws. It might have been less violent, even avoidable, had TLC shown the full truth from the beginning. But in protecting Kody's image for so long, they created a delayed explosion one that began building more than a decade ago. When reality catches up to the edit, someone always gets burned. Today, audiences debate whether Kody changed or just got unmasked. Was he always this angry, this defensive, this lost? Or did years of selective storytelling twist both his self-image and the public's patience? The whistleblower believes the answer lies somewhere between vanity and manipulation. He started performing for a version of himself that didn't exist anymore. From hero to cautionary tale, Kody Brown's transformation mirrors the evolution of the show itself. What began as a window into faith turned into a mirror of fame. And as the cameras kept rolling, reality blurred with production strategy until even Kody couldn't tell which version of himself was real. Maybe Kody didn't change at all. Maybe we just finally saw the unedited man. That question again, why? Was among the first ones posed when the whistleblower's claims surfaced. Why would a billion-dollar network risk its credibility to reshape one man's story? The answer, as it so often is in television, is simple: money, ratings, and control. From its debut, Sister Wives became a financial miracle for TLC. It hit the airwaves during a so-called golden age of family reality, sharing the same zeitgeist as John and Kate plus Bap and Sir Jolt Kids and counting. But unlike those, Sister Wives carried an extra hook: controversy. Yep, polygamy was taboo, but here was a smiling suburban family claiming faith and normalcy. Viewers tuned in out of curiosity and stayed for the chaos. Sister Wives doubled the network's weekend ratings within months. Advertisers lined up, and the Browns became household name. Within the network, the show wasn't just a hit, but also a franchise asset. According to insiders, producers were reminded constantly, protect the property. That meant protecting the image of its lead, Kody Brown. If the patriarch's reputation collapsed, the entire premise, modern, functioning plural marriage, went with it. And thus, narrative maintenance became a business strategy. We weren't documenting life, the former producer said. We were sustaining a product line. Behind the scenes, editing meetings reportedly resembled marketing sessions. Segments were color-coded by emotion: yellow for humor, blue for empathy, red for conflict. Executives studied minute-by-minute audience reactions to decide how far Kody could go before viewers turned off. Too harsh? Add a tender confessional. Too soft? Insert tension. It was a formula based on emotional modulation. Control the audience's heartbeat. Control the show. When emotions become data, reality becomes a commodity. The motives extended beyond the screen. TLC's streaming partners, overseas distributors, and advertisers all banked on Kody's recognizability. He wasn't just a man, he was intellectual property. Every good soundbite protected the brand value, every scandal even Kody's hair became a talking point in marketing decks for its symbolism of vitality and distinction. The network knew if he looked too broken, too cruel, viewers would disengage. So they manufactured redemption cycles, episodes where, after every blow-up came a heart-to-heart, a prayer, a promise. It kept audiences hopeful that love somehow might still win, but hope is expensive to maintain. As real fractures deepened, Christine leaving, Janelle questioning, Meri withdrawing, the cost of the illusion rose. To maintain interest, producers relied on partial truth. The whistleblower describes how storylines were repurposed to stretch drama. A. Arsenling Isherbad disagreement over Christmas filming was re-edited into a season-long rift about loyalty. Or cat, footage was spliced from months apart to make Kody's rants appear consecutive. This wasn't just creative editing, it was narrative architecture built for longevity. Conflict is renewable energy. The producer laughed bitterly. Peace doesn't trend. Reality TV thrives on outrage, not honesty. Then there is the ethical question, where does producing end and manipulation begin? Apparently, this line was debated inside TLC constantly by staff. The field crews saw real tears. The editors saw raw material. One senior story producer allegedly said that we're not changing reality, we're clarifying it. But clarification often meant distorting tone or context. A sigh could be recut to imply resentment. A pause could signal guilt. And these micro decisions built the myth of Kody, the complicated patriarch, a man audiences love to debate. The whistleblower believes that the manipulation wasn't just about rating. It was also about control of narrative ownership. If TLC framed the story, the Browns could never tell theirs independently. But keeping the family dependent on production payments and airtime exposure also kept the network in control of how their faith and dysfunction were perceived. It was a subtle leash disguised as opportunity. They didn't just own the footage, they owned the family's truth. When Christine finally left, that control cracked. Authenticity won out, and fans flocked to social media to praise her for her courage. Ironically, the network did use that organic rebellion to reboot interest. Packaging heartbreak as liberation, they rebranded the implosion as a new chapter. For TLC, even the collapse was content. Pain became plot, and the fallout? A decade of manipulated storytelling has left scars. The relationships between the Browns are beyond broken. The public no longer trusts TLC's branding of family values. Essence, chick, X, Trisha. Online forums now dissect editing inconsistency, the way detectives analyze crime scenes, and get every jump cut feels suspect, every confession rehearsed. In the world of entertainment, meanwhile, Sister Wives has become the cautionary tale, a study in how far a network will go to sustain engagement in a streaming-driven world. Authenticity sells until it stops. Then producers manufacture more of it. When truth becomes strategy, everyone on screen becomes collateral. So, why did TLC allegedly do it? Because the illusion worked. It created empathy, outrage, conversation, the trifecta of modern TV success. But illusions have a shelf life, and with the crumbling of one, so does audience faith. And the deeper question now isn't whether TLC lied, but rather, if the audience ever really wanted the unfiltered truth. Perhaps both sides were culpable. The network in creating it, the viewers in demanding it. As one former editor confided quietly, we gave them what they clicked for. No one clicks for quiet. TLC didn't just produce a show, they produced belief. And belief, once broken, never edits back together. Once the cameras stopped rolling and the lights went dim, what was left of the Brown family wasn't a reality show, but a web of fractured connections, unanswered questions, and people looking to rebuild identity that for over a decade had been televised, edited, and dissected. A story that started off with the coming together of people remains now as a cautionary tale about exposure, trust, and the cost of fame. Kody Brown, once introduced as the cheerful peacemaker, finally found her peace far, far away from Kody's orbit. She quietly lived a blissfully contented life, together with her husband David Woolley, after she was out of the marriage, a life defined by laughter and grounded love, instead of constant performance. Her fans call her the survivor, a woman who has gotten her voice back after years of being framed as emotional or jealous. Christine says she no longer watches the show, not for any sense of resentment, but because she's already lived that story once. And perhaps that's the purest truth. She's done being edited, She stopped being a character and started being herself again. That's the real victory. Then there's Janelle, steady and stoic, who always seemed to live half inside and half outside the polygamous dream. There was no big speech and no tears for the cameras. When she walked away, instead, just quiet strength. Friends insist she is the most financially independent of all the wives. Eyes, with her running her health business, traveling, and prioritizing her grown children. In interviews, she sounds down to earth, unconcerned by the trappings of celebrity, and settled about her choice. In a way, she is rewriting her own version of the American dream: one paycheck, one boundary, one sunrise at a time. She once told a fan online, "We were never meant to live edited lives. Real life is messy, and that's okay." While the show sold perfection, the women built freedom. Meri, the first wife and the one who stood at his side when the cameras first arrived, has turned her pain into persistence. After being emotionally sidelined for years, in Arts Henley Arsersan, she confirmed their split and finally closed the chapter that had grown more symbolic than real. Today, she oversees the family's historic bed and breakfast, Lizzie's Heritage Inn, while leading her own business ventures. She has a strong, deliberate social media presence, full of self-motivational quotes and quiet confidence. It's a reminder to herself and her audience that no edit, no producer, and no ex-husband defines her story ever again. And then there is Robyn, the last wife standing. Her fairy tale ending turned out to be a tragic irony. She once had what the others longed for: a legal marriage, Kody's full attention, a sense of stability, but that dream has curdled into isolation. Insiders close to her say that she is emotionally drained, tired of the hate online, and struggling to manage the loneliness that comes from being the only remaining wife. She was once called the favorite, and now she is living in what some would call the empty castle, a large house filled with echoes of what once was love. At the end, the favorite lost the game, and at the center of it all stands Kody Brown, once the proud patriarch, now the lone architect of his own undoing. It's an image TLC has protected for years, reshaping temper into passion, ego into confidence. When the curtain fell, however, the raw man was left standing, defensive, wounded, unsure of what was real anymore. He's still legally married to Robyn, but the spiritual empire he built has collapsed. No more plural wives, no more shared vision, just a man looking back at the ruins of what used to be his faith, his family, and his fame. Some say he blames TLC, others believe that he blames his wives. But the truth may be simpler. He blames the camera. Because once you start living for the lens, it becomes impossible to live for anything else. Fans have transformed the comments section of each clip, of each preview, into digital confessionals, where they debate who's right, who's wrong, and if the show was ever real to begin with. What's for sure is this: Sister Wives outgrew its premise. It's no longer a story about plural marriage, it's about the cost of turning real lives into entertainment. And now, crew, it's your turn. What do you believe? Did the manipulation exhibited by TLC tear the Browns apart? Or did fame magnify the fractures that were already there? And were we, the viewers, unknowingly a part of the illusion, feeding an ecosystem that rewards heartbreak because it trends? Drop your theories below, symbol. Let's talk, because this isn't about just one family. It is about all of us who have learned to trust the stories told through artfully chosen cuts. Maybe the real cover-up isn't what TLC hid, but it's what we refuse to see. In the end, Sister Wives leaves us with a haunting question. Can reality TV ever be real? But when every confession becomes content and heartbreak a headline, then truth is not filmed anymore. It's produced. I'm your narrator name, and this is the TLC News. Stay curious. Stay bold, and never stop questioning what's real and what's rewritten.